Forget the VIP section at the club.
This is more like the WTF section.
This is Soundwaves TMI.
Hey everybody, how you doing? Welcome to Soundwaves TMI. I'm Dennis Willis, he's Stephen Kirk, she's Shasta, and you caught us fired up today. We are right in the middle of complaining about all kinds of things and all kinds of people, and we decided we're going to bring you into the conversation.
We have decided that no one knows how to communicate anymore at all. Yeah. COVID has completely rat-effed all of us, and no one can communicate. And I am going to start this conversation by saying, let me be clear. I am fully a hypocrite in this moment because I do some of these things that I hate on accident. Okay, so I've said that, and I'll come back around to it as we bitch. But I just want everyone to know, if I've ever blown off an email from you or a text message, that I fully know I do that. And I'm part of the problem, but it also pisses me off. So let's start there.
Is that we're certainly not going to list all of those people, Chesta, because this is only about a half-hour podcast.
Right.
Really have to...
Okay. Let me start with a full explanation so I can just feel better about life. Okay. So we're all pissed off that people don't communicate, meaning they don't email back or they ghost you entirely. They don't text back, whatever. Or my bigger pet peeve these days is the fake I want to connect, but I really don't want to connect thing that happens. Like, oh, yeah, let's do a thing. Yeah, we'll do it. We'll get it on the calendar. And so it's like we have to find a time to put on the calendar. It's like a double meeting of some sort. It's weird.
You're standing right in front of somebody and you go, hey, we should do that thing. And they go, yeah, we should absolutely do that thing. Let's talk about doing that thing. And they'll go, yes, let's schedule a time to talk about doing that thing.
Yes.
Like, but we're right here. We could talk about doing that thing right now.
But we're talking now. Like that. So that part of the equation is more what I want to bitch about.
Right.
The not responding to text messages and emails thing, my problem, I feel like, is fully fucking valid. And that is that I wake up at 3:45 in the morning. And a lot of times I wake up to these emails and text messages and I don't want to send something back at 3:45 in the morning because I don't want to wake somebody up. So then I get ready for work. I get into my mode. And then I've forgotten that it came in at 4:00 in the morning. And
she's
you know
kind
what I
of
mean?
defensive, Steve. I actually wasn't going to dump all this shit on her, but No.
I'm just overly explaining my plight so that people can sympathize with the hypocrisy that's happening right now. Does that make sense?
But it's funny. It's very easy to blame younger generation because my kid, I will go, hey, I'm going to be home in a little bit. No response. And then I'll get home and say, did you see my message? And oh yeah, I saw it. Well, you didn't respond. You didn't say gotcha, yes, yup, anything, right?
That's a different thing. What I'm saying? I am justified. They are not.
Right.
It's okay when Shasta does it.
Okay, so
exactly. I'm glad you agree.
You could blame a whole generation on their lack of communication skills, and that's valid because honestly, but I think it's our generation too. I think people just don't, maybe it's a COVID thing. Maybe you're right, but it's also like a professional thing too. Like I'm not going to name names, but we produce a show. We produce a number of shows. We do a number of things where we have to interface with professionals who either have venues or bands or things or events or whatever those things are that we need to go, hey, so let's figure this out. And they go, yeah. And then nothing happens, or a situation like we were just talking about. I won't name any names, but it's just like, hey, can you do this thing for an episode? Yep. Did you shoot it? Yep, I shot it. Great. Can you send it? It doesn't show up. Like, what is it about? And the joke I make is these kind of people would join a football team, run it down to the 1 yard line, and then put the ball down before running it in and just take a nap. Right. It's like, why do we do most of the thing, but then at the very end, we just stop? Is that what is that? Is it like a passive aggressive power play sort of thing? I don't get it.
I don't know if it's a fear of success or something.
Now we're getting philosophical. I love it.
But I mean, and COVID could, like we're talking about, could have played a part in that because with everything else, we sort of forgot how to socialize when we were all locked up in our houses and everything, where we're not in the office face to face with people every day. If it's you're sitting there in your pajamas and you're, doing a Zoom call or just on a microphone or something like that, you're not having that interpersonal connection kind of thing.
Mhm.
And I think people have forgotten how to behave. It's everything from that to people, sitting in a movie theater or in a live theater, singing along to songs or talking or eating fried chicken or some shit like that.
Yeah.
That you wouldn't have done 5 years ago when you went to the movies or went to the theater. People forgot how to behave.
Now you're talking about my husband. Jay feels very attacked by you right now because he is.
Hey, Jay can kick my ass too, so I got to watch it.
He is fully that. He's not as bad in the theater, I will say that, but you don't want to watch a movie with him on the couch ever for any reason. You don't want to do that.
Oh, is he one of those multiple screeners? Like you're looking at the phone while you're looking at the movie?
He does that, but he's just the top. He has full blown conversations with the movie.
Gotcha.
Like full blown, full sentences with characters.
That's what the pause button is for.
Oh my God. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Oh my God. Yeah, it drives.
I will hit that pause
joke.
button 100 times in a movie and just go, okay, so, and then we'll talk about it and we go back to the movie,
Completely acceptable. Right. Completely acceptable behavior. What is not acceptable is to ignore the person sitting right next to you and have a full blown conversation with your screen as if that person can hear you. Oh no, she didn't. What? Don't go upstairs. Stop it. Like it's so, or he'll talk about plot points. Like I'm not really following, but he'll never pause it. And I'm like, what are you doing? It drives me crazy. Anyway, sorry, I digress. I am fired up today. So, going back to what you were saying, Steve, I think that there actually is something very real with the COVID thing. I think it's kind of multiple layers. First of all, we were separated for a very long time. And I think that does have an effect on how people communicate. But I think also people like me, cancers who like to be in their shell, got really used to not having to be out and about all the time. And I think there's sort of this idea that like, I want to do all these things. I want to go back to normal. But then there's also a part of, I'm speaking on behalf of myself. There's also a part of me that's like, I don't want to overcommit because I don't want to be running myself in the ground and be exhausted all the time. So sometimes like people will be like, hey, will you MC an event, for instance, 6 months down the road? And because I'm me and I don't like to say no, I'm like, yeah, sure.
I do that too. I overcommit.
Oh, and then
especially the farther out it is, I'm like, yeah, it's a year away, not a problem. Fine.
Yeah. Exactly. And then you get a week away from it and you're like, oh God, why did I decide to do that? Why did I commit? So maybe it's people not wanting to do that and they're just too afraid to say that they don't want to do a thing.
Which brings me to my next observation. Okay. No, I want everybody listening to lean in close because I have something to say to the grown-ups and to anybody else who communicates and has, conversations. I know this may come as a shock, but the word no is a perfectly fucking acceptable answer. And I'm a big boy. You can tell me no. I'm not going to start a fight with you online. Can you do it? No. Cool. Let's go on with our life. That's it. So long as I know the answer is no, I'll move on with my life. We'll just figure something else out. It doesn't stop the world. I'm not going to go cry under my couch. I'm not going to ghost you, but nobody says no anymore. If the answer is no,
so valid.
They just go away. Like, hey, you want to do a thing? Yeah, cool. You want to do a thing? Answer's no. You hear nothing. Yep. What the hell is that?
No, you actually didn't get you didn't get that right. The answer is, yeah, I want to do a thing. Let's find a time to figure out how we're going to do a thing.
Yeah. And then they disappear.
And if it's no, you just never hear from them again until they need you. And that's what's always fun is they typically find a way to come back around whenever they need something from you. And that one always makes me giggle.
Right.
Look, I am fully with you. No is a complete sentence. Oprah Winfrey once said, no is a complete sentence. There is no, you don't have to worry about my feelings or give me some crazy explanation as to all the things and all the reasons why you can't. Just say no. It's fine. We'll move on.
Just say no. It's all good. Yeah.
Not a problem.
Yeah. Yeah. Nancy Reagan said it. Remember it.
Was it Nancy Reagan or Oprah Winfrey or both?
Both.
Did they both say that?
Two different meanings. Meanings.
Yeah.
Nancy's was a little more, misguided, but I mean.
But the point remains.
It's no less true. The point remains. Just say no.
I think there is some passive aggressive stuff to it, though, too. You said that, and I think there is an element of that.
Maybe,
for sure.
Yeah.
Now, for me, to be honest with you, though, sort of almost a counterpoint to that is I say yes when I don't want to do something sometimes because I know if I don't say yes and I don't have that commitment to do the thing, I'll never do the thing. I'll never do anything. There's a big part of me that would be very happy, and maybe this is part of the COVID thing where you like you were talking about, Chester, just being able to be in your little shell.
Yeah.
I don't want to go.
Yeah.
You know, I am the most introverted extrovert that you're going to know.
Me and you both. Me and you both.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know, you see me out in public and we're just, party time and let's go and let's have a great time and all that sort of stuff. When I get home, I'm kind of like, fuck that. I just pull a blanket over my head and I watch TV and leave me alone.
1,000%.
But if I don't say yes to something, I won't do the thing. I wouldn't do anything if I didn't. And I know that about myself. And that's the thing. I force myself to say yes because in the long run, I want, and it's even like gigs and stuff like that. I'll get can you go and do this thing? Do I really want to do it? There's a part of me that goes, it would be very easy for me to just say, no, I'm not available. But if I do that, then not only am I leaving money on the table, but I'm also not going and doing,
Mm-hmm.
and I force myself to go and do. Because otherwise I would just sit here and do nothing.
And along that point, I feel like I don't want to say every time, but I'd say 90%, lion's share of the time, I come home and go, I'm glad I did the thing.
I agree.
Yep.
I agree.
Even though
everything you both just said.
You didn't want to go. You bitched about it. You tried. You wanted to squeeze out of it. You were praying you'd get sick, whatever that is. And then you come home and you're like, no, that was fun. I'm glad I did it.
Yeah,
so,
because
you're like Cameron sitting in his car in Ferris Bueller,
Yeah, exactly.
I'll go.
Totally.
I did the same thing. Yeah.
At the end of Ferris Bueller's Day Off, Cameron's like, all cool, glad it happened.
I started forcing myself. I am not as introverted or extroverted as either one of you. I'm kind of like in the middle.
Yeah.
And so for me, it's just like, fuck, I don't want to leave my house. But then I do, and I always have a good time doing it. I come home and I complain that I took time away from whatever.
Right.
I hardly ever regret it. It's always good human interaction, and I do crave that. I mean, I'm the guy who, if I sit here for too long, I'll go, I miss people. I'll open up my Facebook feed. I'm like, why the fuck is that happening? Nobody invited me. Oh, because maybe I never go to anything.
Oh, see, I'm the opposite.
I actually just started to go,
I'd never have that feeling ever. I do love people, and my closest friends, and you two are the tip top of that list. I do love and I do want to see, and I never have regrets hanging out with my closest friends, but I never am like, why didn't I get invited? Jay will have that moment if something happens and we didn't get an invitation. I can't think of an example, but something happens, he'll be pissed. He'll be like he gets personally offended because Jay is very extroverted. He is very social. And I always give the example, if we have a party at our house, I have a list of maybe 10 people I want there, right? This is my closest, my inner tribe. That's it. Jay wants to put it in the GD paper. Like it might as well be like he wants everyone and their dog to show up. He likes being surrounded by a lot of people. And I'm completely the opposite. It has everything to do with my astrological sign. I'm just like, I'm a little crab. I'm like, whoop, and I just want to be in my little hole. And people will argue with me about the one thing I know to be absolute fucking truth about myself is that I am an introvert, period, full stop. And people will argue to the death with me. Well, you can't be. You're on the radio. You're on TV. You're so fucking loud. I get it. I am. You're right. But I am naturally a crab. I'm a Cancer. I'm an introvert. I like alone time. I like being by myself. I like being in the mountains where all I hear is birds.
Nice.
It's a weird dynamic to be doing the job that I do. With that being said, like it's completely polar opposites, and it's something that I struggle with all the time. But back to the
good, it's not just me then.
No, absolutely not.
Because it's the same thing with acting and performing. If I'm doing like character work, if I'm Austin Powers or something like that, and I've got to control a room of 300 people, I can do that.
Totally,
I'm good at it and everything.
Yes.
But there's a part of me that would just as soon be the guy sitting in the back, drinking and being a wallflower too.
I would love to know what percentage of performers or people who work in entertainment and the arts. I'd love to know how prevalent that dynamic is. Because I'm sure
it's very prevalent.
I think it might be.
Yeah. I've met a lot of people over the years doing interviews with them, and comedians especially are really quiet until the mic goes on.
Yeah.
You know, one of the most, the one time I met Robin Williams was at and there's a whole nother 5 other stories to go with this, but it was a premiere at a movie that was held in San Francisco. And he showed up late. And he showed up in, normal, just left my house clothes and tried to sneak in after everybody was into the movie already started. And it was a press thing. So there was a red carpet and all that. And everybody was packing everything up and getting ready to go. And as soon as he walked in, everybody's like, oh my God. And they surround him. Like he can't take another step in any direction because now and everybody's on him and he has to say something funny. And he even said like, come on, I just want to go in. And they're like, and they're like trying to get some sort of Robin Williams moment out of him. And he gave them some half-hearted joke and then like it's the funniest thing, like some weird Pavlovian fucking thing. And then he's like, okay, I'm going to go. And it was like the saddest thing I'd ever seen, like turning him into like a dancing monkey or something like
it's
that.
It's totally a dog and pony show. It's like, okay, be funny, act because I said so, do your thing. Like,
right.
Be the court jester.
And that's why I will not watch any of that TMZ shit where somebody's sticking a camera in a face. Fuck that. It makes me so angry seeing that stuff. And whenever it shows up in my feed, I'm just like, let these motherfuckers walk. You know what I mean? I get so like, who are you to do that to another human being? And I've often said like, and even I've worked at news stations and one time I had to do the thing where they're like, I got a call like, hey, this thing's happening down the street from your house. Can you go live? And I was like, sure. I'm the film guy. Okay, fine. I'll drive my car to the scene of this big fucking thing. And I did. And I get on the phone and they're talking to me and I'm reporting it. And what can you see? And here's some poor bastard going through this thing over here. And they're like, can you get close to him? Can you talk to him? And I stood there and I'm like, nah, I'm nowhere near him. And I was like, God, I felt so freaking dirty after that. You know what I mean? Yeah. I was like, that is not for me. Not for me. You know what I mean? And God forbid I am ever in a position to where something horrible happens, where I'm surrounded by cameras at the scene of an accident. You know what? I'm sorry. I'm going to make the news for taking all you guys with me. You know what I mean? You point a camera at me at my worst moments and you're going to lose that camera.
Yeah.
I mean, it's simple, common decency. And that's the kind of shit that makes me not want to leave the house. What we've become as a culture, as a society, where we feel we can just like take that moment from somebody and then call it news, or entertainment or worse.
Well, that's why you'll see actors that are older, that have been around the block a few times, where they don't have to impress anybody. They don't have to go to an event and be on a camera to get their face out there or something like that. They'll move out of the state. They'll go, on a ranch in Montana or something like that. They'll fly into town and do what they got to do and then get the hell back out of Dodge. Yeah. The only people that you see at these things are the younger people that are trying to make a name for themselves, or, influencers, quote unquote, or some crap like that.
Yeah.
Everybody else, they just want to come and do their job, collect their big paycheck and go home.
I remember one of the first actors that did something like that kind of blew my mind was Demi Moore, when she moved out to I think it was Montana maybe, or somewhere like that. And she moved out of Hollywood. And I remember this a long time ago. I remember at the time I was like, wow, what a power move, right? Like she moved out of Hollywood because she had made it to a level where, everyone knew her. She was a household name and she didn't need all of that anymore. And she just walked away. But it wasn't like people stopped calling her. She still did stuff, but she was able to separate herself. I think fame is such an interesting concept to me. I had a conversation this week about the Kardashians. I know, don't stop listening. Take a deep breath. Everybody freaks out when you say the Kardashians. But I think they serve as a really good example. Kim Kardashian is very good with fame. And when I say good with it, she knows how to take it in, let it go. It flows through her like a river, right? She wants it. She lets it pass it through her. She tries to do some good with it, with her law work and all that. And it never seems to faze her. She always knows how to treat the paparazzi, to deal with the press. She always is very, very cool with it and never takes anything in. Khloe, however, is really terrible with fame, because she has issues like you and I have, where she wants to be at home. She wants to be in a shell, but because she's part of this family, she doesn't really have that option anymore. And even more so than that, to be paid and be on a reality show sort of just opens your whole life up, because you can't compartmentalize what you want people to see and what you don't when you're on a reality show. So that is a really complicated issue. I think some people are cool with fame and they know how to do it, and they don't let it get to them in that way. And some people aren't. And I don't think I would be built for fame on that level at all. I don't think I would.
I don't know how any human is really.
I don't.
I mean,
I think,
like,
yeah, I think she's a fluke. I mean, I think there's a handful of people, but
sure.
she's a good example of that.
Well, I think the movie stars, back in the day, like you go back to the 40s or something, and it would be a big thing for this actor and this actress to be seen together at this restaurant kind of thing, and it was all put together by the studio publicity department. Put the two of you together just so we can get some some press in the paper and all that sort of stuff. You flash forward to the 70s and you go to like the nightclubs and stuff like that, and you'll see actors that made they went out and they hung out and they made sure they got in front of people. They walked in the front door and they're on the disco dance floor and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Studio 54 kind of stuff. But after that, it really started to kind of decline, where people were in front of, you don't really see, like Studio 54 is the last time I can think of where it was a place where you had to go and you had to be seen, and it ended up on camera and it ended up on the news.
Yeah.
They really don't do that anymore.
Because everything is news, and every ounce of everyone's lives is on camera for all to see at all times. So it's like everything's news, so nothing's news, right?
Right.
Like,
No, that's exactly it. That's a very elegant way of saying what I was just going to attempt to say, and that's the difference between what Steve just said.
Yeah.
In the 40s, you're talking about a photo, or in the 70s, you're talking about somebody walking into a nightclub behind a closed door where something awesome's happening in there.
Right.
There was a mystique there. There is no mystique to somebody walking out of an airport and somebody sticking a camera in their face. Now you're just catching that person at an unguarded moment. And if they happen to be like, oh, I don't know, a human, and go, come on, now they're a dick. Now they're known for that. Now they're provoked for that. And so you could build your whole life crafting, like, this is the thing I want to do. And that's completely taken away from you because of this parasitic thing that people do to other people just so they can sell their shots or whatever. You know what I mean? It's disgusting. And I can't speak for anybody else, and I'm not going to be the old man yelling at a tree. All I know is that for about the last 20 years, as much as and it started with dealing with these people at the interview level, where I started to get the sense that, some of the more beautiful people are some of the ugliest people I've ever met, and seeing, and the flip side of that is that the walls that they have to have up, and then seeing this TMZ culture just kind of like become enriched and mainstream, and I just sit back and I go, you know what, I there was a part of me, I think when we all start out and we choose something like entertaining people or being on the radio or doing whatever, there's an aspect to that there's always going to be an aspect of I'm an entertainer. So the flip side of that is you want to entertain somebody. You want to throw a thing, you want a crowd to show up. You're going to put on a show, you want them to come and look. But if that's the definition of what you have to do to become famous or an influencer or whatever, that's just not what I'm made of.
But that's where the level is. That's where the line is now. It seems like if you want to be an entertainer, then you have to literally open the door to every secret about your life, everything you've ever done, everything you've ever thought. It has to be accessible to everyone. And I don't know that that's necessarily fair. Like, I feel like, I feel like you should be able to be a movie star and still, or a rock star or whatever, and still have some mystique about you. In fact, if I'm being totally honest, I prefer my rock stars that way. I don't want to be able to shoot a DM to Steven Tyler. Like, I mean, it's cool, but I want Steven Tyler to be doing something so cool that I don't have access to him. I remember
otherworldly, like way over there,
rockstar shit.
Exactly.
Like, you know what I mean? Like,
totally.
It takes the whole dream down. It kills Santa a little bit for me to see every single nuance of all of these people. It's like, no, Taylor Swift. And this is so funny. I'm bringing up the Kardashians and Taylor Swift, two people that I'm not really even like huge bandwagon or fans of, but I do pay attention to the sphere that they're in. Taylor Swift does it so well. How often is she out there selfie style telling us what she's doing, being in front of people, giving information? Never. She never tells anyone anything except for in song. And that's why people are rabid about her.
That's a great point.
Because they can't put all the pieces together. They're guessing about her love life. They're making up these stories, the rumors they're attaching to all these things she's very smart about it. She puts all these Easter eggs and stuff so that people can follow along. She understands the idea of nuance and leaving something for the imagination. And I think a lot of artists these days should take note of that, because it really gives people something to want.
That's a great point.
Well, but that's the two sides of that coin, though, because on the one hand, if you shut yourself off, then maybe people lose interest. Or if you want to get attention, if you want to be heard above the noise, you've got to do something a little more. You've got to reach out a little bit more. You've got to be a little more open.
Taylor Swift can afford to do it because she's Taylor Swift.
Yeah. But I mean, there are people that have that persona, that outgoing persona. And you can kind of tell, at least I can tell, when somebody is putting on the act, that they're this big, open, gregarious, I'm available 24/7. And a lot of them, they feel like they have to be, because everybody's got a camera. Everybody, you're not afforded the opportunity to be human, to make a mistake, to do any small little thing, because somebody's got a camera on you. If you're someone of note, if you're someone that somebody knows who you are, whether you're on TV or a musician or a politician or anything, if you're somebody that somebody knows who you are, somebody's going to have a camera on you when you're out in public. And to have to be either that guarded or that on all the time, it's got to be maddening. Your Robin Williams story, it's a great example. I mean, that poor son of a bitch, to have to not be able to walk into a room without being Robin Williams, as opposed to just being a guy that wants to come in and watch a movie.
Right.
Oh, fuck that. Oof.
It's like when the guy walks on stage, your expectation is that he should be funny. You've paid to see him. He's on that stage. It's clearly he's in his element. But you see him out at dinner. I mean, I've seen this happen when I lived down in Hollywood. People would just walk up and expect people to all of a sudden turn on and tell them a joke and make them laugh. And it's such an unhealthy expectation. And the whole thing has gotten really down and dirty. Like, the need for fame is so all-consuming of society because of social media. I fully blame social media. Last night, I was watching a YouTube video about New Orleans because we bought this New Orleans house. And so Jay and I are just excited to 10 best places to eat in New Orleans to find new things about our new neighborhood, right?
Yeah.
So we're watching. Oh, and sidebar really quick, that if you know, this is so crazy. Steve Rapport, who's a photographer who's been on Soundwaves, I'm watching a completely random video on YouTube about restaurants, and they show a shot of the outside and he's sitting at a table eating. And I was like, oh my gosh. I took a picture. I paused it and took a picture because I'm going to text him. It was so
That's
weird.
awesome.
Steve Rapport sighting. But anyways, I'm watching this random YouTube video. And these girls run up to this guy's camera, grab the camera, and they're like, "Are you vlogging? We need to be on your vlog. What's your YouTube channel? Can you say my name? It's my birthday. Tell everybody it's my birthday." And I was like, "Oh my God." And we paused it. I paused it. Clearly Jay didn't pause it. I paused it. And Jay and I were just like, ew. This guy's just walking around showing restaurants in New Orleans, and these girls, a whole crew of girls, are like, "Oh my God, I need my 10 seconds of fame."
Well, we've run into that on Soundwave shoots out in the wild.
Yeah, that's true.
People come in and they have to tell their life story while the mic's running.
Yes, exactly.
And
As
you're
Jay
like,
said last night so eloquently, ain't got no class, which is so true. But people are just desperate for their moment. They are on social media, and everyone has a platform. One of my favorite things that's ever been said that's totally inappropriate. So if you're delicate, close your ears. But Lamont always says this, and it's so true. Not everybody deserves a platform. Sorry. Some people just are dumb as shit. And are crazy and are just trying to stir the pot, and they don't need to have some kind of platform because
and dumb as shit, and not in an entertaining way either. I mean, at least you can do is if you're gonna be a fucking idiot, at least be funny and make it entertaining for us. But
exactly.
Right.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. I feel like we've only brought up questions and have offered no solutions.
It's okay. It's good. It's been a great therapy session.
Yeah, we started bitching about things and we ended bitching on things. I think that's
Let me ask you this. And I don't want to come from a really like gross place of celebrity or whatever, but we do a thing, and a few people watch it or listen to it or whatever, and I'm very, very thankful for all the people who do. I mean, we can't do what we do without people showing some sort of an interest. There's no part of me that's out there thinking 10 million people or whatever hanging on our every word or anything like that. But the flip side of that is, is I don't think that they're not either. It's like I'm always kind of aware that whatever we do, there's one or two people out there who are taking an interest. And so, even so taking that Kardashian thing and dialing it way the fuck down to our level, even when you do that, though, there's kind of like this idea, though, when you're posting online or when you're taking a picture of your meal or whatever. And I'm mainly talking about social media because, like Steve, you're very entertaining on social media. Chasta, you're very open on social media. And what I've noticed about myself is that the more success this thing that we do has, the less I post about me. And that might be completely related to what I bitched about earlier in the conversation and the need to like not, shine the spotlight on me or anything. But like on Facebook, when it comes up and it goes 10 years ago, you said this. I'm like, wow, I was far more chatty back then, or like I would never stop the world to say what movie I just watched and what my opinion of the Super Bowl was. You know what I mean? And it's like, I catch myself going, well, when did I change? When did I stop posting stuff in that way?
Why?
It wasn't a conscious decision. A lot of people are like, I'm done with Facebook. Okay, great. Good for you. We'll see you when you come back.
Yeah, exactly.
I've never had that moment. I've never had that point where I just go, well, I'm done. But at some point, I think I just started to retreat a little bit, and I don't know why. I used to get into conversations with people and offer political whatever. And now I just don't care enough to do it. And I don't think people care enough to hear from me about it. I don't live for that, I think is what I'm saying.
That's interesting. I pulled back specifically with politics in that exact same way. When I get those memories, because I used to be extremely vocal about my political leanings and I mean, I look bold. I would say some bold shit on Facebook 10 years ago or whatever it was. And now I'm like, I feel exhausted by it. I feel exhausted by overthinking what I want to say and how it might be interpreted. I'm exhausted by the fact that people are going to come at me with their crap and then I have to come back at them at their crap. And I don't have time or really energy. So in that space, I've done the same exact thing. And I don't necessarily think that I like made that conscious decision, but looking back and reflecting, I think it's just because I'm kind of tired of people's opinions.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you put something out there and that's fine, but then you're opening a floodgate of shit that can come back at you. And I just sort of stopped wanting that to happen. So
well, and that's why that's why I share, goofy stuff or, just fun stuff or whatever, because it's the same thing. I will go back the 10 years on the Facebook thing, and this post will come up where I've said something about something political that happened, and I've got a few, not many, but I've got a few rabidly conservative friends, more like people I know, not even necessarily people I gel with
wading
or
into
spend
the
a lot of
hornet's
time with.
nest or anything.
Yeah.
But and there's this rabid back and forth and one-upmanship and all this. And I'm the same way. My political leanings haven't changed any, but the way that I feel that I have to express myself, I express myself at the ballot box. That's how I do it these days, because it is one of those things where it was kind of like a sport almost to get into the boxing match with somebody, you know, to see if you could, one up them and outsmart them and, outfax them and all that sort of stuff. Yeah, but who's got time for that these days?
That's exactly it.
And it's just, it isn't worth the time anymore, because after I get done, because I'll read those when those pop back up, it's always entertaining to see. Yeah, I agree with me. I still agree with me, I still disagree with them. But then it gets all done. They went off and they feel exactly the same way. I go off, I feel exactly the same way. Nothing changes. Nothing's, nobody's had any amazing revelation one way or the other.
Yeah.
So why bother?
Yeah. In the political space, I have found I vote crazily. I mean, I never miss a vote for anything. So that's the way I express myself. I will go out and protest if I feel so inclined about something. And I put my money where my mouth is. I have a roster of things that I give to every month that fulfill my political leanings. So those are the ways that I do that. But Dennis, back to your point about just posting in general, the other reason is that I feel I have a little bit of a rebel spirit against it, because it's like, oh, you have to post on social. If you didn't post, it didn't happen. And I don't like feeling like it's a job. I will not post unless I'm moved to post. And I might not be moved to be open about something, but once a week or two, like, because going back to what you just said, I don't think people give a shit about what I'm eating.
Yeah, that's exactly it. That's exactly it. And plus the algorithms are all stacked up against you. So I could take a picture of my lunch and 200 people will give me a thumbs up. Yeah. But I take a picture of something with a YouTube link and I'm like, here, go watch this thing that I spent 1,000 hours editing. And it gets nobody's going to see it because Facebook buries it.
Totally. Yeah.
And so I'm like, I think I'm tired of the whole thing. I mean, I on the political thing, it's funny. I wasn't even thinking about politics, but there was something that came up and I don't know what it is. And I'm not even going to sit here and try to remember what it was because I don't care. But it was something and I made one comment on a friend's a post, right? Mm-hmm. And I got hammered by my other friends who were just like, you're wrong because of this. And what about this? And I'm like, you know what? That was a moment where I'm like, I just don't care enough to start fights with my friends. I just don't. You know what? We could talk about it over a beer in a more social environment, or we could just not talk about it at all. And the funny thing is that we weren't opposed to anything. The funny thing is that I agreed with the point, and what they were saying I agreed with, but they were hammering me anyway because I got one little thing wrong or something. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, our discourse in this country is to the degree where even if I agree with you, I'm on your side, I'm going to vote the way you vote. But because I didn't say that little scroll talking point that you got off the bottom of the news screen because I formed my own opinion and it maybe diverts 5%, now you're going to come after me. And I'm like, I don't care that much. I'm with you. I'll buy what I want to buy and I'll vote where I want to vote. But I'm done debating people online because I'm like, life is too short.
I think people are trained to respond like that.
Yeah.
It's that whole blood in the water thing that it's just that automatic knee jerk response to have to disagree with somebody and have to be mad at somebody because their opinion is different, even if it's a little bit different or it's a different shade of gray than what you're talking
exactly
about.
What it was.
That's usually what it is.
It was so absurd. I was just like, why are we fighting?
Yeah.
So I'm just like, all right, I'm out. You win.
And see, that's where I won't give up. I am a rabid dog because I'm extremely competitive. And it's not even that I need to get your side on my side. I don't need to talk you into anything, but I will not fucking give up. And so what I found was bothering me is that you say your piece, somebody comes back at you, and then you go back at them. And then what if I have to go attend to my child and they've left 3 or 4 comments with all these facts and then I never get back to it. And then people think they won. I can't have people thinking they win. I can't do that.
You care a lot more than I do about
and
this.
So and that was crazy making because it's like my child eating dinner is far more important than whatever bullshit's happening on Facebook. But it eats at me that they left a comment that I didn't respond to because someone might think they got me.
Hey, if I saw this 2 hours ago, I would have said this.
Right, exactly. And so that element right there is why I stopped it altogether because my competitive side is just too intense to keep up with that shit. It's just not worth it. And my child is worth so much more than that. So it all went to the wayside.
A man's got to know his limitations.
Right? Exactly. Thank you. I'm the girl that has broken tennis rackets having a tennis match with my husband before. My competitive spirit is way out of control when it wants to be. So I have to temper that where I can.
Mm-hmm. That's funny.
Refusing to argue on Facebook is how I temper my competitive spirit.
Boy, this conversation started with just complaining about how people don't communicate anymore, but we covered a lot of ground, I think, this week.
We really did. Go us. Look at us go. Again, I don't know that we solved anything, but I feel better. I don't know if you guys feel better. I feel a lot better.
It's a purge, it's like
a little Soundwaves therapy. It's good.
That's what this podcast is all about, at least for me personally. Hell, that's what most podcasts are all about, is just getting it out. Just blah.
Yeah.
Whether anybody cares or not, who gives a shit? We'll never know.
As long as we feel better, that's all I care about.
Hey, if I've made somebody feel just a little dirtier when you click on that TMZ feed, then I've done my job here today.
Mission accomplished. Now I feel like I'm judging myself if I go to TMZ now.
Yeah, you with the TMZ and the Kardashians and all that sort of stuff. You're like the anti-Dennis,
I know. I'm sort of ashamed that any of that even came out of my mouth, but it's part of the pop ether. This is the world we live in, whether we like it or not.
Yeah, I'll leave you with a funny story. We had Casey Hill on the set a couple of weeks ago, and her interview is coming up in a few weeks. Yeah. And I always give Shasta a bad time. We're always kind of, brother sister poking at each other about something, and I'm setting stuff up, and they're talking, and I'm just, I can see Shasta, but I was like around the corner from Casey, and you start telling her about, oh, this something I bought, this Kardashian, blah blah blah, and it's great. It popped, and so I looked at you, and I was like, really? And you're like, fuck off. And you just continued. And I just chuckled. I was like, all right, that's
because I'll say my Kardashian piece. Actually, I'm like looking at my clothes. Those girls, I don't really follow the reality show. I haven't watched it in a really long time. But I still do follow them on social because I think the whole idea of them is very interesting. And I did watch them when they first came out, 20 years ago or whatever that is. But what I will say, bitches know their product. You know what? If you're looking for a really good product, those girls don't put their name on something unless it's of value. And no one makes better jeans than Khloe Kardashian. Period. Full stop. Good American jeans are the best for your booty. I'm here to tell you. She's not paying me to say that, but I wear Skims, which is Kim's brand, underwear brand. Actually, I have on Skims thongs as we speak. Good American jeans are all I wear. And skincare too. Skincare, makeup. Actually, Kim's skincare line is what I use for exfoliant. So these girls know their product. It's top shelf. I should be making money for saying that.
You should. Yeah.
Write me a check, bitches.
Soundwaves TMI, featuring Shasta, Dennis Willis, and yours truly, Stephen Kirk. The part of the announcer was played by Kelly Ogden. Soundwaves TMI is presented in part by the Longboard Bar in Pacifica, California, a world-class music venue and neighborhood bar, all under one roof. So please like and subscribe to Soundwaves TMI wherever you are listening from. And please consider helping us continue our mission of lifting and supporting independent music and the Bay Area music scene by becoming a Soundwaves patron. In exchange, you'll be the first to see and hear weekly shows such as Soundwaves TV, Soundwaves FM, and the Soundwaves TMI podcast, as well as exclusive content. Just go to patreon.com/SoundwavesTV. And for all things Soundwaves, follow us on all the social medias at Soundwaves TV, or go to soundwavestv.com.